Hey, what's up guys? Welcome to the tutorial number 9 of the series Special Effects for Games. I'm using Unity 5.5 and today we are going to see how to create a simple cartoon fire like the ones you are seeing, but this time we are going to use After Effects. I already did a tutorial on cartoon effects with Photoshop and I really recommend you to check it out, it's in the description below. And you can find more tutorials of special effects in my channel and you can have access to all of the effects and much more if you support me on my Patreon page, which I will appreciate a lot if you do so. So let's see how we can do this. And we are going to start in After Effects by creating a new composition, and we can rename it to Cartoon Flames. The width and the height is going to be 1000 by 1000, I think it's enough. The frame rate it's going to be 30. But you can decrease it to 25, it's enough, it will do the work. And the duration I set it to 1 second, but it's 1 minute that I want. Okay, so we are going to start by using the pen tool, G for shortcut. By the way, if you click and hold and drag, you can create these Bezier curves. You can add more points if you press on the line, like this. I'm going to scale up this a little bit, and after you have done a shape similar to this one or similar to the idea you have in mind, we can set the color of the field to white, and in this right panel where it says Effects and Presets, we can search for Liquify, and we can drag and drop on top of our shape. And as you can see, we can select a brush. I'm gonna select this one. And as soon as I start painting, it's going to create these distortions. You can increase the distortion values. And I'm gonna basically do some strokes from the outside to the inside and around the shape. And you can also tweak around the shape so it fits your vision. After creating some diversity with the Liquify tool, now we can go ahead and search for turbulence displace. And this effect is the most important one, basically. You can see that it immediately makes some changes. And basically this has an amount of distortion that if you increase you will see a distortion much bigger. But you also have the size, and if you decrease the size you get more distortion, as you can see, with lower values, and with higher values you don't get that much distortion because the pattern size is bigger. So we want the size to be around 30 and 40, more or less like that. And we also have a parameter that controls the complexity of the turbulence displacement, which we can leave at 1.5. Okay, so if we press play now with space bar, you can see that nothing really happens. That's because we have no motion. We have nothing animated. And we are going to press Alt in this clock icon of the evolution, like this. And we can now insert an expression, something like time multiplied by 120, which I will probably increase to 240, something a bit faster to look like flames. And now if you press play you can see that this is already animated and it starts to look like something. We need to play a little bit more with the amount and with the size and the complexity parameters. And after playing around I found that these values look good in my opinion. You can go ahead and copy them or simply play around. I also did a couple of changes in our shape to something like this. You can always select Liquify and create more details with the brush, like this. And after we have found the right values, the right shape, we can go ahead and animate the shape. I'm gonna decrease this to 10 seconds. I'm gonna turn off the Liquify and the turbulent displace so I can work better. And we can open up the shape like this, and inside contents we have shape, and inside shape we have path. We want to keyframe the path in the frame 0. And now we basically want the shape to start a little bit smaller. And at around 10 seconds we want to increase the size of our shape. Something like this, and you can also insert more keyframes and more modifications to your shape. There is no problem with that, I also did it. And end up with something like this. And now that we have our shape and our animation done right, and that we have ended with something that we like, we can go to the effects and presets and search for glow and drag to this panel like this. And basically we can increase a little bit the glow radius, and that's it for glow. Now let's go ahead and work in the color. We can do it in After Effects or in Unity, but this time I'm going to do it in After Effects. So I'm going to set the fill to orange like this, and we can go ahead and search for a 4-color gradient and drag to our shape. Now this 4-color gradient allows us to control 4 colors, and it's actually really great because we can set the center of the point 1, point 2, and point 3 and point 4 to where we want, like I'm doing. I'm basically adding the point 1 to the bottom of our flames, the point 2 a little bit above, and so on. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the point 1 color a little bit warmer, pretty much almost red. And the color 02 is going to be a little bit orange, like this. And the color 3 almost yellow, and the color 4 yellow. Basically we are creating a gradient. After you have found the colors for your gradient, we can go ahead and select color Dodge, as you can see, which will basically blend our gradient colors with our background orange, and it will look much better. Okay, now that we have our color done, let's just set the anchor point to the bottom of our flames like this, and now we can drag the flames to the center. Okay, that's much better. I'm going to increase this to 20 seconds, and we can press U so we can see everything that is keyframed. And now I'm gonna copy the keyframe of the 5th second with Ctrl C and paste it to the 15th second. And also want to copy the keyframe on 0 and pass it to the second 20. And by the way, 20 seconds, it's a lot of frames. In the end, I'm only going to use from the second 5 to the second 15. And I do this because at the end we are going to create a sprite sheet, and a sprite sheet with 600 frames, it's a big sprite sheet. So it's too big, and I'm going to only use 10 seconds, which I also recommend you to do so. Okay, now that we have this shape done right, we can go ahead and duplicate with Ctrl D. And now what we need is to scale down these flames a little bit, just like this. And we can turn off glow and the 4-color gradient. And as you can see, these will automatically fit inside the shape layer 1. And this is basically another layer of detail that you can use or not use, that's up to you. And we can decrease the opacity to get this effect, which I think is really great and really nice. And now we can go ahead and delete the glow and the 4-color gradient, because we are going to search for a gradient ramp. You can drag and drop to our shape, and this is going to be a linear ramp. And like the 4 gradient color, we can also select the center of the start of the ramp, like this, and the end of the ramp. We can set the end color to an orange color, like this one, and the start color to yellowish, like this. Now you can go ahead and give another layer of detail if you want. You can duplicate shape layer 2, like this, which I think it's also great, it gives another detail. That's up to you. Like I said in the beginning, I'm going to only use from 5 seconds to 15 seconds, like this, and that decreases the frame rate to 25. Now basically what really matters is that we can go to File and in Export select Add to Render Queue. And now we can basically select in Output Model, and we want to say that the format it's going to be PNG sequence. So it's basically going to be a series of PNG images. In the channels we want to select RGB plus alpha, which means this is going to be transparent. Now in the output, After Effects automatically adds this, which is going to be used to enumerate all the frames. You can leave it as it is. I'm just gonna add a G like this. And now we can press render. And after rendering we need something that creates sprite sheets from these images. And there is an old software really easy to use and it's free. You can search for Glueit like this, and probably it's in the first link. and you can download it as a zip, and then you can decompress, and when you open it you have this Glueit that you can open. And basically step 1, as you can read, is add files, and select all of the frames that After Effects exported. You can do it with Ctrl A to select everything, and then you can press open. And now we only need to go to step 2, which is selecting the number of columns, and I'm gonna set the number of columns to 10, and then I'm gonna press Glueit. We wait a few seconds, and as you can see it has already created the sprite sheet, and now we can save it and rename it to sprite sheet like this. Okay, that's great. And now if we go ahead, you can open this image. You can see that it's really big, which means that now if you want, you can go to Photoshop and resize the image. And I'm gonna go to image, and in image size I'm gonna select percent, and I'm gonna say that I want 50% of the original size. I'm gonna save it, and I'm gonna add 50. And then I also save another image with only 25% of the original size. This way we can switch between a smaller sprite sheet and a bigger sprite sheet. Okay, that's great. Now we can go ahead and open Unity, by the way. And what we are going to do is create an empty game object and rename it to particle system cartoon flames. And we can add a particle system as a child and rename it to flame01. And now we need to create a folder, and I'm going to rename it to cartoon flame02. And I'm going to import the sprite sheet with 25% and 50%. Now we basically need to create a material like this and rename it to flame01. And we need to select the shader to particles additive, at least for now. And I'm gonna drop the sprite sheet with 25% resolution, and I'm gonna rename it to flame0125. I'm gonna duplicate it with Ctrl D and rename it to flame0150, and now drag the sprite sheet with 50% to the slot. Now I'm gonna drag the material flame0125 to the flame01 particle system. This starts automatically emitting the sprite sheet. We are going to fix that in just a moment. But first let's rotate in the x-axis minus 90 degrees so it faces up, like this. Let's increase the size. This is too small. I'm gonna set 10 for the size. And for now the max particles can only be 2, which is enough. And for the sprite sheets we actually have a parameter called texture sheet animation. We are going to turn it on, like this. And as you can see we have tiles, and we can set a value on the X and Y. This only is the amount of sprites that exist in the X and the amount of sprites that exist in the Y. So we know that we have 10 in X, and we have to count how many we have in Y. And for this sprite sheet, and I'm gonna insert the value of 10 in X and 25 in Y, and we have our animation. Now we can actually set the pivot under the flames, like this. We just need to adjust the Y value. Okay, that's good. And as you may notice, the quality isn't that great. And that's because we need to select the sprite sheet that we are using and set the max size to 4000 or 8000. And what we actually need to use is use crunch compress and set the compressor quality to 100. This will make the sprite sheet much lighter to Unity, and it will load quite faster. It's just a little bit slow to compress, but after compressing you will see that there is much more quality and the sprite sheet has a smaller size. Okay, this is starting to look good, and we can actually set the start lifetime to between 8 and 10, which means that some flames will be faster than the others. And the start size is also going to be between 8 and 12, as you can see. And unfortunately I had a problem while recording this. I only noticed when I end up doing the effect, but I'm gonna walk through. So I basically turned on 3D start size, so you can control the size in the X and the Y, as you can see, and I have inserted a value between 9 and 7. And then I have two colors, two random colors. I give it a light orange and a light red. Basically the max particles are 4, there are only 4 particles at the same time, and the rate over time is 0.5 per second. I have also turned on shape, as you can see, and the radius is really small, with an angle of 25. just to make sure that they don't all appear in the same space. And we can also turn on color over lifetime, and this is real easy to use. The keys on top controls the opacity, as you can see, and the keys on bottom will control the color. Basically I don't use any color in the gradient, but if you want you can add color. And then I also turn on size over lifetime, and the size over lifetime you can do pretty much anything, and you can press right mouse click to add a key, as you can see. You can play around until you get something like this, or the size can be always the same over lifetime, no problem with that. And then at the end I added the light, and it's a prefab that I created. You can create one with the right mouse click, as you can see. And that's basically all the settings that I have. Then I tried to create the particles, small particles, but I think they don't fit the style, so I move on to create the details. And the details I actually was able to record well. We go back to After Effects and we create a new composition, and this time it can be something small like between 100 and 200, no problem with that. The frame rate can be 25, and we can make sure that we only have 10 seconds, that's all we need. This is going to be a small thing, a small detail, and we again use the pen tool like we did before and create a small shape similar to this one. This time I'm gonna add color in Unity and not in the After Effects. So let's set the fill to white, and we can search for the turbulent displace and drop on top of our shape. And I'm gonna decrease the size to around 40 and set the amount to 25, as you can see. And now let's again press Alt on the clock of the evolution and insert the expression saying that we want time multiplied by 180, should be enough. And now finally what we need to do, it's basically animate the shape of this detail. And this is just to show how strong this workflow can be. And you can do a lot of stuff with After Effects and then export to Unity. It's really a great process. So let's keyframe this, and I want to something bigger in the beginning and something smaller at the end, like this. Something very simple. Let's add a glow and we are done, we can export. So let's export and add to the render queue. In the output model, let's select PNG sequence, and let's also set the RGB plus alpha in channels. And now we can choose the output and render this. We are again going to use the Glueit. I add all the frames, I say that I want 10 columns, I glue it and then I save it as a sprite sheet. Now we can go back to Unity and create a new material. You can duplicate the flame 01 if you want with Ctrl D and rename it to details. Let's import the sprite sheet that we have just created. Let's again compress it with the use crunch compression and set the compressor quality to 100. Let's apply it. Now we can drag the details 01 sprite sheet to the details material, and let's create a new particle system called details, which we can rotate -90 degrees in the X. Let's go to shape and increase the radius like this. And let's also say that we want random between two constants for the start size. And we want a small size at the beginning, something like 0.1 between 1. Don't mind by the particles, I don't think they fit the style, but these particles are basically the same as the last tutorial that I've done, named Cartoon Flames. You can check it out if you want, by the way. And now let's set the start lifetime between 1 and 5. Let's also set the start speed between 1 and 3. You can play with these values, I will change in a couple of minutes actually. And you can drop the details material to the details particle system. And now let's count how many images we have in the X-axis and how many we have in the Y-axis. Let's go back to our details particle system, turn on texture sheet animation. And in my case I'm going to say that I have 10 images in X and 30 in Y. Okay, that's looking great. We can do some more stuff, like we want to say that the start rotation is random between two constants, and it's going to be random between 0 and 360 degrees. We can turn on color over lifetime, and that's where we can add color. As you can see, I'm going to use this gradient, it's really easy to create, just two colors. Okay, that's looking good, and now let's increase the rate over time, and let's use size over lifetime, just like this. And now we can also add another thing, which is rotation over lifetime. and we want to say that it's random between two constants. Between 10 and 35 should be enough, in my case. And that's pretty much it for this details particle system. It adds a nice touch to our flames, and this tutorial is very important for you to understand that After Effects combined with Unity can be really powerful, and you can do amazing stuff with both softwares. This was the workflow to create some flames, but there are plenty of effects that you can create in After Effects. And that's basically it, guys. I hope you have enjoyed it. Please subscribe for weekly game development tutorials. You can support me on my Patreon page. I will appreciate a lot if you do so. It means a lot to me. And see you soon in the next tutorials.